Good morning, colleagues. We start our working day. Please welcome the Speaker of the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine, Colonel Viktoria Kushnir, followed by Colonel Dmytro Gutsulyak. Good morning, dear audience. Welcome to our briefing. This week, the management of the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine, the General Headquarters of the Military Forces of Ukraine, as well as defense enterprises and representatives of the Kiev Association of Military Attachés will take part in the exhibition of samples of aviation equipment held on the territory of the civil aviation plant for 10 of the state enterprise. It will provide an insight into possibilities of repairs and modernization of military transport and special planes of MAN series and helicopters of Mi-2, Mi-8 and Mi-24 at this Kiev enterprise. Besides, this week, the head of the National Defense Authority will meet the Special Envoy OSCE on Gender Matters, Ambassador Melanie Weber, to discuss matters of gender policy implementation in the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine. Today, military instructors from the military forces of Canada will go to the 143rd Center of Mine Defusing in the city of Kamenets-Podilsk, Khmelnytsk Oblast, where they will study possibilities of training of Ukrainian military servicemen in defusing mine munitions. In the scope of multinational training exercise, members and professionals of the military Air Forces of the National Guards from the state of California, United States of America, will undergo a mission to evaluate the airfields of the military forces of Ukraine in Kulbakin and Starokonstantinova. Effective from 2015, the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine has entered into 71 contract and an additional agreement on military munitions and equipment supply for the Ukrainian army. According to the State Defense Order for 2015, since the beginning of this year, military detachments of the military forces of Ukraine have received 1,207 military equipment and more than 266,000 missiles and munitions in order to provide the military forces of Ukraine with new surveillance and control systems. Experts from the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine have had a working meeting with management of BATS company from Belgium to discuss prospects of supplying the military forces of Ukraine and other military detachments with land surveillance systems, border control systems, reconnaissance systems, and counter-fight equipment. The repairs units of the military forces of Ukraine and defense industrial enterprises continue modernizing and repairing military equipment and military machinery for the needs of the military forces of Ukraine. In the past week, they've restored 373 units of military equipment, of them 10 T-64 tanks, 3 Grad multiple missile launchers, 1 Gyatint-B unit, 9 self-propelled howitzers Gvozdika, 3 Akatsiya, 1 Pion, 6 anti-tank Rapira cannons, 7 anti-aircraft installations ZU-23-2, 1 anti-aircraft missile unit Strela-10, 64 Metis anti-tank units, 3 armored personnel and reconnaissance carriers BRM-1K, 4 armored personnel carriers BMP-1, 12 BMP-2 and others, 197 heavy military trucks were restored to full operation. For the time being of anti-terrorist operation, a total of 26,785 units have been restored. The military forces of Ukraine continue receiving assistance from the citizens of Ukraine. The respective accounts in the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine within the scope of the support to Ukrainian army campaign have received more than 159 million hryvnias. Of these, 5,810,000 were received in 2015. Of this amount, around 145 million hryvnias were money transfers to material and technical supply, and the remaining amount were to provide medical support of the army. There is a single mobile number 565 through which support to the Ukrainian army has been delivered since early 2015. More than 1,100,000 hryvnias have been collected. Currency amounts were also transferred in equivalent of 846,000 hryvnias. Charity donations included material supply for the total amount of 30 million hryvnias and more than 9 million hryvnia worth of furniture and building materials. In order to streamline these charity donations to army, the Cabinet of Ministers of Ukraine has adopted its resolution number 451 to endorse the procedure of public collection of charity donations to boost and maintain military mobilization readiness, military capacity and function of the military forces of Ukraine. It provides for several variants of collection, also through electronic means, through charity organizations, and with involvement of Ministry of Defense officers, with relevant placement of advertisement information in the media. This is all for today, and I'd like to now give the floor to the spokesman of ATO, Dmytro Gutsulyak, who will inform about the situation in the ATO zone. Good morning, Mr. Gutsulyak. Please tell us about the dynamics in the ATO area for the past 4 days. Thank you. The situation in the ATO zone in Luhansk and Donetsk Oblast is stable yet tense. One of the most heinous things is about increased shelling by pro-Russian gangs of peaceful settlements where predominantly peaceful citizens live. On 10th of July, from 12:51 until 13:13, the pro-Russian forces shelled the city of Svitlodarsk using 152 mm shells. 120 mm mortars were used to shell the city of Avdiivka at 23:30. On 12th of July, 152 mm artillery were used by Kremlin henchmen to shell residential areas in the cities of Popasna in the direction of Pervomaisk. Mortar shelling with 120 millimeter shells were used against the city of Opitne. The shellings of peaceful population by gangs confirm the members of such gangs are just rank and file killers and marauders. The population in the temporarily occupied territories becomes increasingly wary of their activities, and people really long for peace. There were 4 military contacts as of this morning. On 10th of July at about 2 a.m., ATO forces identified sabotage and reconnaissance groups of pro-Russian rebels around nearby Luhansk village. They dispelled their penetration. A second contact and engagement was witnessed at the daytime around the village of Talakivka. On 11th of July, Ukrainian military managed to cut short 2 attack attempts by groups of insurgents, 50 to 20 persons in each. The Ukrainian forces made them retreat. Russian terrorist forces continue openly breaching Minsk agreements by shelling ATO forces positions with 152 and 128 millimeter artillery, mortars, tanks, and guided missiles. For the period from 10th to 14th of July, around 250 shellings were held against the Ukrainian positions. Of them, most of them were in the areas of Avdiivka, Opitne, Piski, Verkhnyotoretske, Novotoshkivske, Luhanske, Lozove, Troitske, Stanica Luhanska, and others. May I remind you that the ATO forces are located beyond the areas of the mentioned residential areas for the purpose of saving local residents from military threats. Russian terrorist forces more than 80 times shelled ATO positions. On 13th of July, they used 152 and 122 millimeter artillery 5 times. 32 times we saw the using of 120 millimeter mortars, tanks, and multiple missile launchers. At 11:25, Grad systems were used to shell ATO forces in the areas of Nevelsky, Yasinovatsky district of Donetsk Oblast. From 18 to 24, we saw heavy shellings of our positions around Opitne, Avdiivka, Mariivka, Novgorodka, Krasnogorivka, Mayorsk-Pisky, and the Donetsk direction. Our adversaries have been rather active in air reconnaissance. 12 cases of drones have been registered. 2 of these drones were destroyed by Ukrainian forces. In this period of 14th of July, there were 3 cases of drone use. At 0:15 hours, there were 2 attempts to shell our positions around Pisky using tanks. sniper was registered in Shirokine at about 4 a.m. The ATO headquarters does not exclude possibilities of further destabilization of situation, and certain provocations carried out in some Ukrainian cities by sabotage groups in an attempt to discredit the military forces of Ukraine. Nevertheless, the Ukrainian forces and law enforcement agencies continue controlling and closely monitoring situation. There was an information about Ukrainian military forces shelling the area of Donetsk airport around Spartak, but that was uncovered as another yet fake information thrown by pro-Russian gangs. On 13th of July, news were spread about Major General Andrei Taran dismissed from his position of the head of the Ukrainian party of the Joint Control and Coordination Center. Again, the information was another information warfare campaign that was disproven. The military forces in the ATO area are strongly defending their positions and are ready for any development. Thank you, Viktoria. Thank you, Dmitry. Until our next meeting on Friday at 9. Dear colleagues, our next briefing will be about consequences of the VAT special accounts introduction. It will be at 11, and we will hear representatives